welcome to episode 3 in my launch episode, my launch series, where I've been discussing the 3 essential elements to a healthy lifestyle. In episode 2, I discuss what the best diet is for you and my approach on diet and eating well. And today I want to look at exercise and movement, which is one of the other key or essential elements. And I'm not going to be going through, the physical and mental health benefits of exercise. I feel like we all kind of know that already. What I'd rather go into, or I think I'd like to discuss, is we all know that we need to move and keep mobile and flexible, and it's important for our general well-being and fitness. But I want to look at why, despite knowing that, why people then struggle to keep up with regular exercise, even though they enjoy it. So with me today to discuss this is David Butler from 48 PTC Cycle Tours and Events. Welcome, David.
Hi.
David has been involved, you've been involved in the fitness industry for over 30 years, and we won't give away an age, involved in the health and fitness industry, the fitness industry for over 30 years. You were a PTI instructor in the police force.
Yeah.
Always into exercise yourself, loads of marathons under the belts, triathlons. You liked a bit of cross training, really, yeah? Running, cycling, running. You also involved in setting up one of the original dedicated one-to-one coaching, personal training studios in London. Is that correct?
Yeah, we set up one in Kensington in 1995.
Okay.
I ran that for a year, and then we set up another one in Fulham, PTC. In 1996. And
that was in the days like when personal training wasn't available on every street corner.
There was no personal training in any health clubs at the time.
Okay.
Personal trainers were few and far between.
Mostly for the stars, I suppose.
Yeah, there were no real personal training centres or studios around. I think was the first designated one in London. Specifically designed for personal trainers to train clients.
So you're very much involved in formulating and helping develop this industry. But from that, you were also involved, because of your work in that area, you were very much involved in consulting in the leisure industry, on certain health clubs and things like that. And this is what really interests me, is you, after a knee operation, you really started focusing your work on cycling, and that's when you set up 48 PT Cycle Tours and Events.
Yeah, I was a marathon coach and running coach. I did lots of running. I raced on the track 400 and 800 meters. I did lots of swimming and triathlon and cycling and triathlons. But a knee issue, a cyst on the knee, which had to be removed, stopped me running. And then I focused more on cycling.
So when you get
the latter years.
And so what's also quite good about, what's quite interesting about this is you set up the cycle tours company and really focusing on the cycle coaching. Almost just before, it was almost particularly well timed, and I don't know that you could have known this, it was just before cycling became such a big thing in the UK.
Yeah. So when we would go riding on a Sunday up Box Hill, on a Sunday morning, we would see 6 other riders going up and down Box Hill. And now, if you go there on a Sunday morning, you might see 600 riders going up and down Box Hill. It started to grow just before the Olympics in 2012. It's getting more popular, and then it boomed after that because of Bradley, the Tour, the Olympics.
Yeah, and UK British cycling just doing really well all around. But your individual experience of having the knee operation and then changing tack with regards to focus, well, not just your business, but your own form of exercise, is a perfect example on the point I'm trying to make. And one of the questions I get asked a lot. In episode 2, I dealt with one of the other questions I get asked a lot, which is, what's the best diet for you? But the other one I get asked a lot is, what's the best exercise for you? And your situation there highlights the exact answer, which is the one you can do and get on with, very simply put.
Yeah, well, the best exercise for me turned out to be cycling because of the low impact. and the movement of the knee, and the strengthening of the muscles across the knee joint, and the general fitness that it delivers. It turned out that cycling was the best form of therapy post-operative, and going forward, cycling is the best exercise for me to continue to have that strength and fitness.
So it was part of your rehab, and this is one of the other things that comes to it. So yes, all of that has to be taken into account when you choose a form of exercise for you. Obviously, it needs to be something you enjoy. I mean, you didn't just go, oh dear, what can I do now? And the surgeon said cycling. You went, well, if I have to, you know. So it has to be something you enjoy. But equally, it has this, there's so many elements to the cycling for you. The rehab element, the strengthening element, and then it feeds your business, which is useful. It has the social side, and these are some of the things that I say for anything to be something that you stick with, it has to feed all those areas.
Yeah, if you want to stick with anything, you've got to be able to enjoy it, and you've got to be able to get what you need out of it as far as fitness is concerned, because the results obviously matter.
Yes, results, making progress, sure.
Yeah.
Because but this is it brings me to one of the other things, is that what you find, and you may have seen this with people when you're coaching them, is that we often have excuses for time's a big one, facilities, injuries, this sort of thing, but there are reasons and excuses with why you can't exercise, and I think it's important to differentiate between the two, because an injury can be a reason and excuse why you don't exercise, but as you found, and which is often the case, is very few people in the medical profession will advise against exercise. It's the form of exercise that then makes a difference. Time is often a real reason. You know, we live in a modern time. I'm aware, you know, your kids, or you're busy working, you don't have time, but you then have to figure out a way to work around these, you know. In a way, there is no real excuse, but it's about identifying the reason that you're not exercising and then working around that. I mean, I had, talking about the injury, a woman I worked with, she said to me, the problem is I don't exercise so much anymore. I really used to love it. I used to do a lot of rowing, really enjoyed my rowing, but my back, I've injured my back. And so ever since then, I can't do rowing anymore. It hurts my back. And I kind of sat there, and then I said, yeah, but you can do other stuff. And that almost just hadn't occurred to her. Have you seen that? Time is the big one, the common one. I mean,
Well, the good thing about cycling is that you can go for your long rides on the road, you can go for your long rides off-road, but you've got options to ride indoors. You can spin, you can ride a stationary bike, you can do just a quick 20 minutes. So you can always do something with cycling.
Sure. You cycle to the shop and back with the kids.
Exactly, you cycle with the kids, yeah. So you can always, if you've got a bike, you've got a stationary bike, you can jump on it anytime. And there's lots of third-party apps online that you can join in socially and ride and make it enjoyable as well. So there's no excuse for cycling, because it's sociable, it delivers results, and you can do it indoors, outdoors, at any time.
Sure. And I mean, that the social element you mentioned there is also quite a big thing, because if you mix with people who have the same interests, I mean, you've created a whole business around it. You've just come back from a cycle to a 4-day cycle tour, where you cycled from here to Paris over 4 days. And that is a tour, so it is a bit more about the getting to, you know, stopping, then having lunch, taking in the scenery, just enjoying being on the bike, I guess.
Yeah, the tour to Paris is mainly to go and watch the tour finish, but it's a 3-day ride.
The Tour de France finish.
The Tour de France. It's a 3-day ride to get there. The one that we do is a beautiful route, and it is a social ride. It's still very demanding.
Sure.
I mean, it's 6 hours a day in the heat, cycling. You have to work towards it. You can't just jump on your bike and do that. You have to build up towards it. But we've got people that come on the tour, the Ep3, who didn't ride before, and then got into riding, and then eventually have built up over a period of time. And then come to Paris. There are people that come to Paris that haven't yet been to the mountains with us, to the Pyrenees or the Alps. That's the next step. So there's different steps you take people through in achieving goals with their cycling, should they want to. Or they can just spin or
keep it on their
motorbike, whatever level they want.
I mean, I know for me personally, the thought of 6 hours on a bike doesn't appeal to me at all. And then I have no real talent in swimming. I've obviously enjoyed recreationally, but I enjoy running. I have a group of clients where we do a lot of brisk walking, hikes, and just to change it up. I do different versions of running races, so fun 5Ks, longer, more challenging 10Ks, the obstacle course races. So it's just creating variation within that. But like I mentioned before, with doing either spin or going on a longer ride or just a cycle route to the in the woods or to the shops for the kids. There is also, what I try to stress with clients is sometimes you just have to tick the box. It doesn't always have to be the most postable workout ever, It can literally, if all you've done that day is gone for a nice brisk walk, to the shop and back, and it took you 15 minutes, and that's all you've really managed to fit in. That's it. Tick the box. The next day you perhaps be motivated to get more done, and just get it done, really.
Yeah, and there's every opportunity to do that. If you've got a bike, you can jump on it at any time, and go and do your shopping on it.
Yeah.
And if you've got as I said before, if you've got an indoor bike, you can jump on it at any time.
Yeah. I mean, I know quite recently you actually, because for the tours you hire various vans and things to help, because you take a whole support team and a medical team, bike mechanics, and you actually cycled to go and collect the hire van, obviously because you needed to get there without a car, because otherwise you'd have to leave one behind. And it's that kind of thing. Okay, so cycling to work, just that requires a little bit of planning. I know some offices have showers. I've got a few clients who do that, who may cycle to work, leave a suit or something there and keep rotating that.
Lots of the guys who live locally, and girls who live locally in Oxshott and Common, Esher, commute every morning on their bikes into the city.
And how long is that cycle?
For some of them, it's about an hour there and an hour back. Yeah. So it's not that much longer than spin class, or driving, having to find a parking space, battling on the tube or for a train.
Yeah, so it's just a bit of pain. So you mentioned there guys and girls. Have you noticed, certainly cycling has been, in general, I would say, maybe I'm wrong here, but more popular with the guys. And I guess my logic there would be that it's the gadgets. There's a lot of that going on.
There's a lot of that, yeah. There's a lot of good equipment out there that people like to have. There's a lot of computers.
Which tends to attract the male more than the female.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of women, isn't there?
Yeah, there are more guys cycling, but there are equally more women cycling, proportionately, yes.
So I wonder also if there's some element there of, women and men have such a different approach to a lot of things, but what I see in the studio, in the gym, with coaching men or coaching women, is that women have, and sometimes it works for them and then sometimes against them, women often are more coachable because they're willing to, they start off in that position of, I don't know, let me listen, let me learn. But sometimes that works against them because they talk themselves out of something and, oh no, I could never do that, or I could never cycle to work, oh that's a busy road, or I could never run a 5K, I'm too old. Whereas with men, you almost find that they have a load of confidence, and too much confidence sometimes, and I'm having to go, let's perhaps just start with a lighter weight, or maybe let's not go. So do you find that in the cycling as well? Is there a difference between the way women and men approach it?
Yeah, I think the women that I coach and I've coached in the past tend to be prepared to build up towards something, whereas the guys want to just go out there.
Just want to do it tomorrow.
No, because it's very competitive, and guys like gadgets, and there's
the competition.
And what you have now is you have Medium, you have Strava. It's a forum, so you're sharing your rides.
Right,
you ride
opportunity to brag.
You put your ride on Strava. Everyone that follows you, all your friends, can see what you've done. They can see your power output. Yeah. If you've got a power meter, they can see your pace, your time, your speed, how many meters you've climbed, and it almost becomes a competition to see how many kilometers, how many meters of elevation you can fit in your Strava. And even Strava run competitions, like climb 9,000 meters this month, for instance.
So you mentioned, so Strava is a similar forum or format to the whole social media thing where you're engaging. And while there's a lot of negative stuff about social media, but one of the positive things I've seen, especially with a lot of the certainly very physically fit and capable older women that I work with, often if I've posted a photograph of them doing an obstacle course race or a 5K run or something, often it's their friends who see that and then go, oh wow, I could also do that. And so that, I guess, would be a positive side of the social media thing, is that it can make it where people, particularly women, say, I've gone, oh, I could never do that, or that's impossible. Suddenly you see another woman of a similar age or someone who they've considered is on the same level as them and gone, well, if she can do it, then certainly I can. So that's quite positive.
Yeah, if you see all your friends and other guys that you normally ride with, and you haven't ridden for a few weeks, and you see they're out there doing it, it's motivational.
It's motivational, yeah.
And you can also message each other.
Yeah.
I mean, I saw someone that used to ride with us. He went on Swift, which is a third-party app, and it loaded up to Strava. So I saw his ride. So I messaged him last night, and I said, "That's great. That's the first one for a while, but you haven't been on the road for a bit. When are you coming out?" So I think, yeah, you can.
Yeah.
You can. Equally, some people don't want to post their rides because they don't want people to see how badly they're riding as well.
But motivation is the big thing, and acknowledging, that's another thing that often holds people back, is this need sometimes to, well, the need to feel that you've done, look at me, I've run, it's only worth mentioning if you've done 10K, a big race, a big climb, but equally not acknowledging the small steps, right?
Look, they all add up.
Yeah.
I mean, I cycle with lots of people during the week on a mountain bike along the towpath. It might only be 6K, 8K, 10K.
Sure.
I post it on Strava. All those kilometers build up over a period of time. I do my long rides at the weekend, and I'll fit a long ride in during the week, and then with the spin classes as well. But it all adds up. And if people see you're active all the time, they want to be, it motivates them to be active all the time. So I log everything. I'm going out today with someone who will ride very slowly, and it might be 8K that we do, but I'll post it on Strava.
Sure. But that brings me to the thing with technology so useful in tracking that progress. You know, because before you could think back and you go, well, I went out, I think on Monday, that must have been this time, or I only went out for 20 minutes. It couldn't have been that much. Whereas now with technology, you can measure your distance, measure your time, you can log it. But you can then look back and go, wow, look how much I've done this week. You can use it as a prompt. Some of these apps are fantastic.
Strava give you how many kilometers you've done that week, how many you've done that year, compared to previous years. Also, every section of road that you ride, it will be posted against all the previous times that you've ridden that section of road, and it will tell you where you ranked in your time against yourself and against everybody else that's ridden that segment.
So the competition.
So you can your rides are being, you can compare your rides against all the other rides that you've done constantly.
Yeah.
So you can chart your progress, or see how you were, see where you were at 2 years ago, how you're fitter now than you were, are you faster now than you were then?
Yeah, and you mentioned their progress, and we were talking earlier about choosing a type of exercise that works for you because it also needs to bring results. That is important, but often what I see with people is that when they think that they're not making progress, but when you then start to ask them, so, well, when did you start running? Oh, well, 5 years ago. And you go, well, you've been running for 5 years. You know, what were you doing before that? Oh, I never thought I could run. Sometimes when you just stop and think and account for it, you can see the progress. So often I see that people not acknowledging the small stuff. They don't clock their overall progress. And then getting results. You know, there's a thing, you know, you can't want to, so let's say, certainly with exercise, a lot of people turn into exercise particularly for weight loss. So you can't expect to lose weight and only, you know, walk to the shop and back every day, or train for a marathon and go walking every day, you know. So when I come back to the thing is, what's the best exercise for you in choosing exercise? Obviously, it has to be relevant to what your goal is. But the whole thing with goals, I think people appreciate, you know, having something to work towards is great. But, you know, that goal doesn't have to be as specific as running a marathon in September, right? It can just be to get out there 3 times a week, to be active,
When you're cycling for yourself, and you work towards your own goals. Your goals might be just to fit in 3 small rides a week. Your goal might be
to formulate
Paris
along the way, actually. Like you said before, people come out with you on a tour to Paris, and then there are other people talking about doing the more serious climbs in the Alps and Pyrenees, and then that drives that. So there's really a few elements really in answering that question with regards to what is the best exercise. We obviously have to take into account what the type of exercise you choose, and there's more passive and obviously more cardiovascular types of exercise. But the one you choose should resonate most with what you're trying to achieve. But there's no reason also not to include, I mean, we do, at my studio, we offer cycle fit yoga. So there's no reason not to include some of the more passive exercises alongside the very cardiovascular ones.
Cyclists should stay flexible, because you don't get flexibility on the bike. So you need to stretch, or you need to do yoga, or you need to do
something to get you out of that constant pose.
And also rowing is very good for cyclists. I mean, I know anecdotally over the years that when I row well on the concept in the gym, I ride well. And all the riders that I've trained and coached over the years, when I've got them training hard on the rowing machine, it transfers onto the bike. So cross training is really good.
Well, especially if we're talking at this sort of level, the amateur athlete or the recreational athlete. You know, obviously when you're doing it on a very serious level, even they do cross training, but there comes a time when you need to be more specific about what you're doing. But for your average person getting involved into exercise, just do anything to move. And exercise, I try to come away from that word a bit and use just the word movement, because it doesn't necessarily need to require some structured sport or activity. It can just be, walking in the pool, going for a swim, walking the dog, simple things like that.
Yeah, I think it's important to cross-train and to give your body a rest from a particular activity every now and then, and fit in other activities, because you work other muscle groups and you get other benefits. And stretching. And swimming's always been a key interest for me as well, because when I swim well, I feel good. And all those, I think swimming, that's why triathlon's so interesting, because I think swimming and rowing, and I say triathlon, swimming is particularly good for strength, upper body strength, and you need upper body strength on a bike. I mean, we do strength and conditioning in the gym for cyclists during the winter to build up as well, because you need core strength, you need upper body strength, that all helps. So swimming and rowing, particularly for me, are good contributors to fitness on the bike.
Absolutely, and you mentioned there about doing different training into the winter. That brings me into the other thing, which is often an excuse, is the weather. If it's raining, and again we come back to that, reasons and excuses. So there may be a reason why you can't take your ride outside today because it's gushing down, but then you can do something indoors. Or get the gear. Running outside in the rain is actually quite pleasurable.
Well, regarding cycling in the winter, we ride all year round, but when it's icy, there have been occasions where we've set up the spin bikes in the studio and we've done a spin session. Or if most of the guys have got a turbo trainer or a watt bike, and they're logged on to Zwift, you can log on and you can all ride, and you can be in your own house, but you can ride remotely. You can ride as a group on Zwift. So the weather is.
Certainly in this country, if you depended on the weather, you'd never get out, right?
The weather doesn't have to stop you from training.
No, nothing needs to stop you from training, and I guess that's the point. So with regards to exercise or movement, just do it, right? Just do it. Just start, and even if you don't have a goal straight away, just start with something, and your goal, you'll formulate a kind of idea or a level that you want to get to or not get to. Just start. Right, so you're 48ptc.com, that's your website, so people can find you there. You do the one-to-one coaching, obviously cycle coaching, like say threshold testing, things like that. But of course, the main thing is your cycle tours. And you also do the bespoke events. I know you've done a lot of corporate rides for companies where you tailor it.
Yeah, we do rides, one-day rides in the UK, all across the UK. We've done a series of tours all across the UK, connecting locations for companies. We've done corporate rides abroad in France as well. And then we have our bespoke tours as well. We go to the Pyrenees every year to train in the mountains. We go to the Alps every year to do the Etape. And then we just got back from Paris, where we ride to Paris to watch the tour finish.
And that, of course, is another good way if you, with you know, corporate team building and things like that, doing something physical. And it's also, it's not like a golf day, which usually favours men. You know, cycling can be approached by both men and women. So the corporate rides are quite good too. But individually, obviously, they can join you with the training camps to the Pyrenees, to the Alps, the Oxford to Paris cycle before, which you always time that with the Tour de France final and the final day in Paris.
To watch the tour finish.
So 48ptc.com. So one last thing before we go, 48ptc, why 48?
Everybody asks that question. 48, because of the 48 hairpins of the Stelvio, which is a climb in the Dolomites in Italy. It's our signature climb. And
that's the zigzag route up the side of the mountain.
48 hairpins over 24 kilometers to 2,760 meters. It's the second highest pass in Europe.
Wow.
So that's
and you've done it, right? You've done it.
Yes. Oh, of course, yeah.
And is it, what about coming down there when there's cars?
Yeah, well,
they don't close it just with cars and leave it for cycling.
No, it's narrow and it's tight, and it zigzags up the side of the mountain. And in fact, the hairpins are so tight that some cars have to do a 3-point turn to get around the hairpin.
Wow, that's just like the Italians who take on something and hair raising there. Well, look, if you ever needed motivation, I guess you're at David. You're extremely passionate about exercise. You've made a lifestyle and a career out of it, really. So I guess the final message is just do it. Just get into moving, and then baby steps, but it all adds up, right?
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.